On today's show, the Padres and Dodgers are incapable of having a normal game as the blood feud reignites, featuring Mike Shildt and Dave Roberts having an unk-off, Tatis getting hurt, the benches clearing, and a whole lot more. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Friday, June 20th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering this team for almost 6 years now for not just this podcast, but also various other outlets, including JustBaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. As always, go check me out on Twitter/X and Blue Sky if you want any of your comments, questions, or just to follow me and see what I'm up to at Javiipeno, Javiipeno. Today's episode, guys, we are talking about last night's game, recapping the game from a baseball perspective, because boy, last night's game got quite entertaining. It was quite good, as everybody who watched could attest to. And then we're going to break down the blood feud that transpired, the benches clearing incident, give my very biased thoughts on that and why I think the Dodgers are cowardly punks. You know what I mean? Let's get into it. You know what I mean? And then for some fun, which is kind of crazy that this is the last thing we're going to talk about, Luis Robert trade proposal from Jim Bowden that I want to give my thoughts on. So yeah, let's get to it, guys. The Padres win yesterday's game by a final score of 5-3. Very, very good. Ryan Berger gets a start in this game, 4 2/3. No earned runs, 3 hits, a walk, 3 Ks. Looks pretty good. Looked like really pretty good. Only an 88.5 exit velocity allowed on his fastball on average, and an 86.3 on his sweeper in terms of the averages. Looked all right. Ryan Berger performing very well. Padres starting pitching, holding together despite the injuries. So you know what this means. It's fine. It's time to declare it. Starting pitching depth, overrated. Look at the Dodgers, right? They lost Snell. They lost, who else? Glasnow, Bobby Miller, probably a Roki Sasaki, probably some other pitchers that I'm blanking on right now. That's not a shot. I'm just saying. And they're doing fine, right? So starting pitching, overrated, confirmed. But of course, guys, seriously, really good start from Ryan Berger. And honestly, a gutsy pull of him pretty early in this game from Mike Shildt. 4 2/3 innings only for him, pulling him, bringing Adrian Morejon, using the rest of the bullpen. Really wanted this W, which I am fine with. Although I'm a little bit surprised because I thought Ryan Berger looked pretty good, and I'm surprised he didn't keep him in the game. Granted, the reason he didn't keep him in the game is because it got a little bit crazy later on in that 5th inning, as they got an Edmund walk and a Hae-Sung Kim single. So that's why with Shohei Ohtani up, he probably pulled him. But nonetheless, really nice start from Berger, and a really good start from Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who was great. And I think that Padres fans and fans in general, I think slept on Yamamoto a tiny bit, because he got really roughed up last year, specifically and only by the Padres. I don't know why. I'm talking about regular season. And then has bounced back this year, has been awesome. He's just healthy. 6 1/3 in this one. He does give up 3 runs, though, on 7 hits. And I actually don't think that, well, I do think that he could be a Cy Young candidate. I do think that he could still win that award. The Padres did pretty well off of him. Some good contact. The hardest hit ball of the night was from Fernando Tatis Jr., and it had a 108.9 exit velocity and a 760 expected batting average, but it ends up being a line out. Gavin Sheets had a ground out with a 450 expected batting average. That was the third hardest hit ball. Like, they were hitting him pretty hard. The Padres had a good game against one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball right now, in my humble opinion. So really nice for the Padres offense. And in terms of that Padres offense, Jake Cronenworth, 3 for 4 in this game with an RBI ground rule double. I bring this up because I just praised him on yesterday's podcast and talked about how he's been really underrated. So cool that he has a good game. But Xander Bogaerts is the story here. Xander Bogaerts is the story here. 4 for 4 in this game. Hits a big home run in this one as well. He needed that. Very, very cool. Look, there was actually a quote from him the other day that I saw, and it was following the walk-off loss. And I thought it was really telling, right? First of all, they said after having gone 1 for 12 in this series and failing in all but one of his previous 19 trips to the plate with runners in scoring position, because, by the way, guys, Holy dear God. Bogaerts drove in the game-tying run with a double in the top of the ninth inning last night. Then he watched from his spot at shortstop while Will Smith's walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth sailed just over the right field wall to give the Dodgers a 4-3 victory. And quotes, "One of the few positive things I do. It don't even last a couple minutes. It's brutal, rough." Made me sad. You know what I'm saying? I was like, dang, that's unfortunate, right? Like, I feel bad. And look, I stand by everything I said. I don't think I was mean in my criticism of Bogaerts, but it is true that it is becoming quickly one of the worst contracts in baseball. I will say that, yes, there are some expected stats that he should be a little bit better than what he's been right now. His average is 227 heading into last night, 263 expected batting average. His slugging percentage heading into last night, 314. His expected is 380, right? Weighted on base, 294 as opposed to his expected of 317. So yes, he is probably going to get a little bit better. I don't think he's going to be a 76 WRC plus player, but it's not like he's playing well. The stuff we are talking about with Bogaerts is still a concern, right? The zone contact rate, not hitting anything 94 and above. Like, he's still a problem, but it's nice to see him have a good game. And that's basically it. Gavin Sheets, 10-game hitting streak. Very nice for him. That's basically it for the game in terms of just, like, what happened. Like, in terms of just the baseball events. And we're going to talk about the brawl that occurred in this game and my thoughts on it, because I think that it needs to be emphasized that the Padres they don't really get into it with anybody except for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers don't really get into it with anybody except the Padres, right? So that's kind of what coalesces into why this rivalry has been kind of must-see TV for a while. These two teams are incapable of having a normal game. And I, for one, kind of enjoyed it. It's fun. It's exciting. And we're going to talk about it and my thoughts on what transpired and potentially Fernando Tatis Jr.'s injury in just a second, folks. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. And do you know who the sponsor is for today's show? Well, let me tell you guys, it's a wonderful one. And that's because it is our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Because if you're looking for a snack that's both nutritious and delicious, just crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios, guys. It's one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel full longer. It's great. Personally, I also love the no shells variety every now and then. I'm personally I love that too. I like cracking it open. It feels good. And they've got different flavors as well. Really, really cool stuff, guys. Go check it out. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Go on and get cracking and check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing into the final segment of this show. Talked in the first segment about the game. Great bullpen game all around, by the way. Adrian Morejon, really good. We're going to talk about him probably next week a little bit more in detail. Got to give my man some love. Padres bullpen shows up. Yuki Matsui ends up closing it out. And why does Yuki Matsui end up closing up? Because Robert Suarez hit someone intentionally, and that was Shohei Ohtani. And why did that happen? Well, folks, let's get to it, guys. First, Fernando Tatis Jr. gets hit in this game. And he gets hit, and it hits him right in on the hands, and he's hurt. He has to get pulled and all that stuff. And then both Mike Shildt and Dave Roberts get into it. Roberts actually looks like he made contact with Shildt first, but Shildt is running out of the dugout. Like, he was just incensed by seeing Tatis get hurt. Like, he lost it, clearly. And it's interesting because Shildt has been mostly, and the Padres organization and team, I should say, has been very let's just play. Like we want to win right now and we're just focused. And they're a tight-knit group. But it seems like this crossed the line and enough was enough, right? And then Shohei Ohtani also gets hurt. It's worth mentioning that Ohtani getting hit might have also been, this is just a theory of mine, might have also been somewhat due to Dave Roberts pulling his players early, which was a little bit odd with 2 innings left, down by 5 with that offense. I get it, you want to rest them, but a little bit weird to pull all your star players. So maybe that's part of why they were like, all right, we're hitting Ohtani then. Or maybe they're just like, that's what we're going to do. We're just, if you hit our best player, we hit your best player. But it ended up actually costing them a little bit because Robert Suarez throwing at Shohei Ohtani and getting him hit, he gets ejected. And then the Padres end up getting, or the Dodgers already had some runners on base, right? Like, they were scoring. They had the Tommy Edman single, the High-Sun Kim ground out. It was 5-2. Then we had a wild pitch that went right past Maldonado, by the way. Maldonado, I'm sick of him. It's ridiculous. But what I basically try to say is it was a winnable game if they maybe had the best their best batters still in, right? They had Isao Kim, and then they had Miguel Rojas and Dalton Rushing, so not the best, but whatever. I'll take the W, right? So anyway, let's get more into it though. The way I view this is I don't think that Tatis was hit intentionally. I really don't. I don't think he was hit intentionally the last 2 times he's been hit by the Dodgers in the last 10 days. But bottom line is just when you see that as a team, I'm going to bring up the New York Mets as a comparison. The New York Mets had a season, I'm going to say it was 2021 and maybe a little bit of 2022, where they were getting hit by far more than any other team in baseball. So in a vacuum, you see them they would react sometimes when their guys got hit, and you'd be like, dude, that clearly wasn't intentional. What are we talking about here? But you have to see from their perspective why they're like, what the heck? Like, we keep getting hit. This is ridiculous, right? And then you start to be like, well, then maybe some of them were intentional and they just didn't look that way if you're the other team. And I think that that's where the Padres came from in this space. Yes, Andy Pages did get hit. Game 2 of the series? I don't remember exactly. I'm blanking. But remember, Tatis has been hit 3 times in the last 10 days, all by the Dodgers, obviously. And all of them have been fastballs, which usually is not a good sign for the whole, like, it's not intentional. I'm not saying it was, but you have to look at it from the Padres perspective, right? So that happens. And yes, Andy Pages got hit, and he took exception. He glared at Dylan Cease, which I found to be, and still find it to be very weird. Right, Mr. Sage meditation man who barely raises his voice. Dylan Cease sits him out of nowhere. Nothing happens there, right? So the way I see it is Pages got hit initially, took exception, got angry for whatever reason. Nothing rest of the game. Next day, of course, Wednesday's game, we have Tatis get hurt, then Shohei, then the warnings, and then Iglesias gets hit. Nothing happened despite the warnings. Then we get Tatis again. So you got to look at it from the Padres perspective, which I imagine most people listening to this podcast will, but it's a Dodgers game, so a lot of Dodgers fans are flooding into my comments. I'm just prepared for that, and at least trying. I know it's futile, but just trying for the regular Dodger fans that aren't weird online to just be like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't like what they did, but I get what you're saying. That's all I'm asking for. So Tatis hit 3 times in the last 10 days. Could it be a close to the plate thing the way he bats? Sure. But the way that I bring it up also is what Mike Schultz said after the game. His quote saying he called out the number of times Tatis has been hit by LA, 6, which is 2 more than any other team, as the reason for his ire toward Roberts in the 9th. In quotes, enough's enough, he said. Intentional, unintentional, the fact of the matter is I took exception to it. That's how I kind of view it. I don't think they're like, that in a vacuum was intentional. I think they're just like, why does our guy keep getting hurt? And in this case, like, hurt. Like, he's really hurt this time. Initial x-rays, according to AJ Casfall, on Tatis' right hand were negative, but there's some inflammation, obviously. He will undergo additional imaging, a CT scan and MRI to confirm the results tomorrow. We haven't heard anything, but with Merrill being out, like, they've had some injuries to the lineup, so I can understand now he gets hurt. Like, I can understand why the Padres are pissed. And Manny Machado decided to really just go nuclear with his, right? Nuclear with his moment, saying, this is a crazy quote from Manny. They need to set a little candle up for Tati tomorrow and hope that everything comes back negative. And the they he was referring to was the Dodgers. So that's a threat. That sound like the Pete Davidson skit, if anybody's ever seen that on SNL. That's a death threat in a newspaper. But no, that's a threat for Manny Machado. It's crazy. The blood feud is boiling, folks. And I really just need to emphasize, I feel like the Padres just see, from their perspective, season series, 6 Padres hit, 4 Dodgers hit, a lot of hit balls hit by Tatis more than any other team. Just happens to be the team that we've had beef with for a while. Obviously with the Dodgers, and yes, Andy Pages took exception, but again, I reiterate that more Padres have been getting hit, and I think that it's worth bringing up that nothing happened after that, right? Padres didn't do anything, right? Dodgers didn't do anything. It was kind of squashed. Then we had Wednesday. Tatis gets hit, Shohei gets hit, warnings issued, and then Iglesias gets hit. So keep that in mind. More Padres have been getting hit here. So that's how I view it. I think it's great to watch, frankly. Like, it's really exciting. Hopefully this maybe energizes the Padres selfishly for the weekend and they get into it, and then they can face the Royals and maybe have a good stretch, because again, they've been quite bad for a while now, right? Like, they've lost, like, what is it, 10 of their last 16. They've been pretty rough for the month of June. It's also worth mentioning and honestly worth applauding that Shohei Ohtani, in the vengeance that the Padres did by Robert Suarez, which was, I still think, wild, because you could have lost that game. Thank God Roberts pulled all his guys. Maybe that's the reason they did it. Suarez, but worth mentioning that Shohei, after getting hit, he like kind of immediately is like, he tells the dugout, don't worry about it. And I really think that was a really mature thing to do, right? Like, I really do. I think that Shohei was like, look, let's not do this. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. We'll be okay. You know what I mean? I respect that. He was gracious, and honestly, that's pretty cool. But it also means I know how people are going to frame this, right? I know how the media is going to frame it. The media, when the Padres got beer thrown at them, and Tatis got hit last year, still turned it into, we were the aggressors. So imagine what it's going to look like when you hit Ohtani and it was 100% intentional, right? So that is, I know how it's going to look, and Shohei's a genius for that, frankly. He's like, I'm not saying he did this with this intention, but he was, he must be, the Dodger fans must be thinking like, oh yeah, like, now we're going to look great. We're going to be the good guys. And I get it. I get it in a lot of ways, but I do think that it is worth mentioning more Padres have been hit. I just think that the Pajes thing was so, like, why? But this is why things get out of control. More Padres have been gotten hit. And even after a warning, a Padres player got hit. Again, I don't think intentionally. But 3 fastballs with Tatis in the last 10 days from the Dodgers. This is why you get upset. And especially when one of them hits him in on the hands and he's getting this x-ray. I hope he's okay, because he's actually been playing well. I mentioned that he got a little bit unlucky in this game, but he had a lot of lineouts. Balls hit in the air. That's a big thing for him lately. He's been hitting the ball into the ground. It looks like he's been turning around. Then for him to get hurt would just be devastating for this team. So it's a lot of rage, a lot of pent-up frustration. Roberts yelling at Schilt, like, we'll talk after the game, right? Like, that's not like a cowardly thing that he did, but it was just very funny. Him being like, no, stop. We'll talk after the game. Calm down, everybody. Dodgers-Padres, man. Best rivalry in the sport. Dare I say best rivalry in all of sports right now, because next to maybe Chiefs-Bills, just because there's always something that happens. Padres-Dodgers. Always some electricity in the air, So crazy stuff, guys. But really what matters the most is hopefully Tatis is okay. Hopefully it's not an extended absence. They cannot afford to lose him and Merrill right now. I don't even want to talk about what that outfield looks like. Right, like without those two. So we'll see. And we're going to see if the outfield changes over the next coming months, because the trade deadline will be here, and we got a little bit of a trade proposal to go over, and that is one for Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox, guys, which we're going to talk about in just a second after hearing from our sponsors. And folks, that sponsor for today is also our friends over at The Duel, that loves to fan. The NBA playoffs, the NBA finals, I should say. Game 7, baby. And every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's that amazing game-winning shot by Halliburton, whether it's the clutch stretch by SGA in Game 4, whether it's that beautiful, pass by Halliburton last night, whatever it is, it's great, and it's time to get in on the action. Yes, the MLB season is heating up, I get it, but we've also got the NBA finals. We've got everything. And everything is possible over at FanDuel. Before tip-off and live, player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you're new to FanDuel, don't worry. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing here into the final segment of this show. Remember to go follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, and at @LO_Padres. We're going to have a little bit of a special guest, possibly on Monday's show, by the way. So be sure to send in those questions to commemorate the special guest day. Yeah, go do that. Hopefully I did a good recap of the brawl and the fight. I know that I'm biased, but that was how I felt about it. I really do. And I know that it's futile to try and explain as best as I can, so that way Dodger fans aren't mean to me. But it's what's going to happen. I said my piece. I stand by it. Whatever. Let's move on. Luis Robert trade proposal came in from Jim Bowden. For those who don't know Jim Bowden, he is a very popular lad when it comes to, being a baseball analyst for MLB Network, CBS Sports, The Athletic. So this is like a big guy, is basically what I'm trying to say. And he wrote about a possible trade idea for the Padres. And it is an interesting one. and it is for Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. Cash Mayfield, Kavares Tears, and Cobb Hightower for Luis Robert is basically the trade that was proposed. And there's a lot to get into on this. First of all, the first thing that initially sticks out, which may tell Padres fans, heck yes, let's do this, is that, wow, we don't have to give up Ethan Salas or Leo DeVries. And I actually think in a Luis Robert trade, you would not have to do that. I do think, though, that Cash Mayfield may be a little bit of a step too far, only because the Padres do not have a lot of pitching prospects, and they just drafted this kid last year. He had like an 8 strikeout game the other day. He looks like he could be something, right? Like he's a high upside guy. I don't think they're going to give him up. But Cobb Hightower, I could see that happening. He looks like a guy who could just be a solid major leaguer, not necessarily like a star or anything like that. So I could see that happening. But and if you're a White Sox fan, you might be wondering, well, Javi, this is like our best asset. Like, why we can't give him up unless it's for a top prospect. Well, that's because Luis Robert has been atrocious this year. That's why. Luis Robert, in my opinion, is one of the more fascinating trade targets that I've seen in a long time. And the reason for that is because, like I said, he's been bad. And almost everything about the interest in Luis Robert depends on how much you believe in the talent. Because this year, again, he has been dreadful, which is why I don't think it's going to cost as much as it might have cost a few years ago, which is, by the way, a fun fact. I think on this podcast, I said the White Sox should have sold on Robert immediately after 2023. Immediately. 4.9 win season, 128 WRC plus. He hit 38 home runs. He was great. But 38 home runs, is that going to happen again? I don't know. And he was also bad last year with an 84 WRC plus. Right? This year, he's slashing 190 with a 273 on base and a 303 slugging. So now you might be wondering, well, Javi, why the heck would we want to trade for this guy at all? And I get that. But that's because at minimum, he's a pretty good defender. He's actually been an excellent defender before. He had 13 outs above average in 2023, his last great season. And that was after they sold everything. Right? That was like the final last gasp. It was almost like Robert was like, let me just show everybody I have stuff and hopefully they'll trade me. And then after 2023, he's like, wait, how did I not get traded? And it didn't happen. And now he's performing so poorly that I can't see a world in which the Padres or any team gives them a big prospect. So do the White Sox hold him? Possibly. But to me, I'm kind of in favor of it. I'm in favor of do not give up Salas or DeVries for this guy. I'm not doing that. Because while it's not a huge contract, he does have some money on his deal, Luis Robert, right? Like, this isn't going to be a guy that you get for free and you get for, say, the type of flexibility that Jarren Duran would get, right? He's owed $15 million this year, then he's owed $20 million next year, and $20 million the year after that. Both club options, but still, and then an unrestricted free agent. So you do have the control, but he is a little bit pricey. So do you want to give up assets for a guy that, what if he was just this one-hit wonder guy that we're projecting based only on talent, and he might not have anything, right? That's why I think you probably don't have to give up too much for him. Because of the money, teams aren't going to want to take on this guy that has club options for $20 million for the next 2 years, which is not bad at all if he plays up to his talent. But right now and last year, he has not been. Right? So can he be a change of scenery guy? I do think that. I do think there's a world in which he comes to the Padres and is great. He's reinvigorated. Because I just find it pretty crazy that you go from having a great season that wasn't fluky, by the way, in 23 to just being awful after not getting traded. Like, it's like I don't believe it, you know? But I get it. This year, though, some positives. He has stolen 22 bags. He's got speed, which is nice. That would help for the Padres for sure. And he's got a 9.8% walk rate. The strikeout rate has gone up for sure. It's above 30%. But what do the Padres have to lose? I think is the case for why they make this deal. You make this deal, you just hope that he's great, and you put him in left field instead of giving up all of your assets, right? Because if he goes back to doing even just a little bit, let's say he's a 3-win player, that is worth giving up very few prospects and moving things around and just getting this guy back, and then you have your left field figured out. You have your outfield figured out for the next few years. You just do, right? If you do this trade. And he turns out pretty well. There's also the possibility that he is just a player that isn't any good, but he's young. He's 27. So for me, I'm like, screw it. If we're going to take a gamble, let's take a gamble with an asset that is underperforming like crazy right now. And because of that, he's probably not going to cost as much. Maybe you just have to give up a Cobb Hightower and I don't want to give up Tyson Neighbors. I love him, friend of the show. But maybe you just give up, I don't know, Tirso Ellis, right? Maybe you do that. Maybe you give up Boston Bateman, something like that. Tears was already mentioned in the deal. maybe you just keep Cash Mayfield. He is just in rookie ball, but he's been okay. He's young. You don't want to give up another pitching prospect already because they got rid of him all way already last year following the Tanner Scott, Jason Adam trades. So that's what I'm feeling. I am in on the idea of trading for Luis Robert. I just think that, yes, the money is a problem, and yes, the Padres are a little bit strapped for cash. Nick Pavetta's salary is going to go up next year. But if they can make it work, and Preller gets the go-ahead, I would much rather do that over giving up Leody DeVries and something else for Jarren Duran. And by the way, I don't think that Jarren Duran is going to be on the market. I think that trading Rafael Devers got rid of a glut in their lineup. Not a glut. Made it easier for them to have lineup flexibility, and they might re-sign Alex Bregman now, and Jarren Duran's under cheap control for a while, right? Because now they have a place for him, and now they have a place for Roman Anthony, their top prospect, to be up and playing every day, right? They don't have this a clutter anymore with their lineup, so I think they're less likely to trade him, and they want to keep guys that are, what's the word? Under contract for cheap, right? So that's what I think is going to happen. I'm for it, man. I really think I'm for it. Jeff Passan's for it. He wrote a big trade primer a couple weeks ago. He's like, that's the guy to trade for, I think. At least he's going to give you defense and speed. And I just think nowhere to go but up from where he is right now. And because he's been so bad for 2 years now, I don't think he's going to cost as much. I really don't think. So I'm kind of for it. I think the Phillies could be interested in Luis Robert too. They might take a shot on him. Even though they don't need defense, they really need offense. The Padres just need anyone who's capable of playing left field, and this guy has the upside to be awesome, right? So, would I do it? Yeah, I would do it. I'm nervous about giving up Cash Mayfield. I am. Not because I think he's great, but I just want to have a pitching prospect. I do. I want to have a top-level pitching prospect that we can at least be a little bit excited about. But we'll see. And on future shows, we're going to have Ara Blayton back to talk about the rest of the Padres farm system. We had about a couple weeks ago just to talk about Leody DeVries, the Duran trade, and Ethan Salas. We're going to have him to talk about the rest of the Padres farm system, which will be very relevant as we get into the later hours, the witching hour of trade deadline season, let's say, guys. So look forward to that, and also look forward to Monday's mailbag episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the episodes this week. Hopefully you don't hate me too much for my thoughts on the Dodgers. But whatever happens. Until that next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Fire Faithful homies, take care.